Welcome back to Power Hour, ladies and gentlemen. It's 8 minutes after the hour, wherever you're sitting. Thank you so very much for joining us in the Power Hour today. You're going to be glad you did, because you're going to meet Joe Cross. The video, the documentary is Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. Well, he was, but he was also an Australian entrepreneur, investor who invests in high-stage, high-potential growth companies, investments in fashion, transportation, private equity, finance, derivatives trading, early childhood education, structural steel distribution, and health and wellness sectors. He began his business career at the Sydney Futures Exchange. He worked from the 1980s to 1998. He managed a diverse portfolio of assets in telecommunications, media, technology, and financial services. So you get the drift. He was a very big businessman, very much involved in investments. Well, he was also 100 pounds overweight, loaded up on steroids, suffering from a debilitating autoimmune disease. And he says he was fat, sick, and nearly dead. And it's really a pleasure to introduce to you Joe Cross. Thank you so much, Joe, for joining us in the Power Hour today.
Oh, thanks so much for having me, Joyce. It's great to be here.
Well, you're getting a lot of attention because of this movie, because you weren't the typical health nut, were you, Joe?
No, certainly not. I was the poster boy for everything you shouldn't be doing, probably. In fact, I was living on a diet that was very high in processed food, very high in animal product, very low in natural food. I mean, I was a sugar, fat, and salt junkie.
Well, you certainly were, and you made a decision to turn your life around. How did it come about that you made this decision? Because, yours was a huge, life-changing situation. Yeah,
it was, Joyce. Look, it's a very good question, and I think to really to get to the crux of that answer is that it took time. It wasn't just like it took starts and failures to finally get to the point where the procrastinating of what I was trying to start before just wasn't the full effort. It's kind of like most things in life. If you do something that doesn't have the right plan or the right effort behind it, it's not going to work, right? And I'd given a lot of false starts with not a lot of effort. I was pretty much in my late teens and early 20s. I was very athletic. I was playing football. We call it rugby. I'm pretty sure your listeners would know about rugby. Mm-hmm. I played rugby in Australia up until I was about 25 years of age. I used to row. I used to run. I was in the athletic team. So I was very fit and very active. And therefore, that kind of gives you a license when you're in that sort of youth to eat what you like without it being detrimental to your health, because the body's still growing and you're pumping out a lot of energy with your exercise. And then, of course, as soon as I started to really focus on my career and work, all of the athletic side of my life went out the window. It became just very much about sitting at a desk and trying to, focus on wealth and not health. And it wasn't until my early 30s when I got sick. And I got sick in a way that I had to go to hospital straight away. I woke up, I had this swelling in my hands and my feet. It was incredibly itchy. By lunchtime, it had gone up to my elbows and knees. By the mid-afternoon, it was all over my chest. And then by the evening, my face was all swollen. So I was straight into hospital. I was in there for well over a week. They couldn't work out what it was. It was some huge sort of reaction going on with my immune system. And they pumped me full of a very powerful drug called prednisone. And they put about 80 to 90 milligrams of that into my system, which basically carpet bombed what was causing this. And I went back to normal. And I just thought to myself, isn't that fantastic that medication, I live in a world today where there are drugs that can cure me. I mean, this was my attitude, Joyce. And I use the word cure. I remember thinking about it. I've taken a pill and I'm cured. And, of course, what I didn't realize at that time was that this was a lifetime sign-up to this drug. It wasn't a cure at all. It was purely a drug that would enable my symptoms to be suppressed, not to actually go to the cause of the problem. And so after a few years of taking this drug every morning and every night, I started to really look at the way I was living my life, and that I was outsourcing my health to a pharmaceutical company. I was outsourcing my health to a medical fraternity. I was not really taking responsibility. So I began a quest of trying to get well and get off the drugs. And so I started with the actual medical world, and I went around the world to all different hospitals and doctors. I had most of my blood taken out and put through a machine and spun and put back in, and that didn't work. And, I spent, a couple $100,000 on this search. And then I started talking to drug companies.
Wait a minute, you spent how much on this search?
About a couple $100,000, 200,000, 250,000.
That's amazing. Now, let me just add that you had the wherewithal, the financial resources, to do anything, go anywhere you wanted to.
Yeah.
And you basically made the decision, I want to live really badly, and I'm willing to go and find out the way that I can live. Because obviously what medicine was offering in Australia or the United States was not necessarily the answer then, or at least mainstream medicine as we know it.
Well, at the very beginning part, I was going to mainstream. That was the point, because see what I realized, and I realized this as I got towards 40 years of age, that I'd been really dumb and really stupid, and but I'm sort of giving you the story when I was still dumb and stupid, where I was actually looking for someone else to fix me, as opposed to me to fix me. Does that make sense?
When you were fat, sick, and nearly dead.
Correct. Because see, I was a businessman who thought I was pretty smart. I could go into a company, I could solve a problem, I could work out how we could make this better, how we could hire that person, how we could do that better. So I had all those skills. But what I wasn't doing is I wasn't using those skills on solving the problem of Joe. And it wasn't until I hit 40 years of age that after 8 years of taking this medication night and day, where I had explored not only the scientific world, I'd also explored the alternate world. And the thing that I hadn't done was look in the mirror, have a good hard look at myself, and say, boy, Joe, maybe you're the problem. Maybe you are the one that needs to fix this, and you need to change things in your life, because that security of the sugar, that security of the fat, that security of the salt was something that I had had all my life that was, that was a crux. It was a weakness. It was something that I was addicted to. So it wasn't until I got to 40 that I actually realized that when I hit 40 years of age, the day after my birthday, I looked in the mirror, and, at 310, 315 pounds, the medication wasn't going down. I was taking that, and all of a sudden the blood pressure, the cholesterol, everything else is off the charts, and they're starting to tell me I've got to take drugs for all of that. That I kind of looked at it and said, boy, oh boy, this is madness. I mean, I'm going to have maybe enough money to live for the rest of my life, but I'm going to be, one of the richest people in the graveyard, and this is just insanity. Yeah. So I then started to explore what was really going on in the world, and Professor Ron Penny, who's one of Australia's leading doctors, he said something to me that really changed and altered the way I looked at everything, and that was that 70% of all disease is caused by our lifestyle choices. What we drink, what we eat, what we smoke, what exercise we do or don't do, how much sleep we get, how much stress is in our life, all of these factors that are lifestyle choices. And I went, wow, 70% of all disease is caused by lifestyle choices. When you think about that, in America we spend $2.5 trillion on healthcare. Trillion. And you think about 70% of that cost is because of what we are doing to ourselves. Now, I was the poster boy for the guy that was doing it to himself and causing me to spend hundreds of dollars a month on medication, as I said before, the thousands of dollars traveling around trying to find doctors, cures, and all sorts of results and remedies. So I went and looked and said, okay, let's focus on Joe and solve the problem of Joe's health. And I started to think about it in the big picture of, even though I was 40 years of age, Joyce, I was actually 400,000 years old as a species, like and even depending on your religious belief, even if you don't, we're still thousands of years old. And for that period of time, we used to eat mainly fruits and vegetables, nuts, beans, seeds, food made from the earth, made by the sun, by the wind, by the water, and by the soil. And I hadn't been doing that. That's something that I had not been doing. That was the first sort of thing that I felt that I needed to do. So I decided that what I would do was only eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, and seeds until I was off the medication. I made this concerted effort, and I didn't know if that was going to take me 6 months, 1 year, 3 years. I didn't know. I had no idea. But I was willing to give it a go.
Let me ask you, what was it, though, that put that thought in your mind? Because most people never think of eating something as strange and weird as fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, seeds, legumes, whatever. Most people never even consider that as an option because everybody else is eating a different kind of diet. So was it the education? Was it someone that talked with you? What was it that made you have that inspiration to try that?
Okay, so it was basically logic. I started to look logically at why we are the way we are. Like, have you ever asked the question as to why we see in colour, but most animals see in black and white? Have you ever asked that question, Joyce?
Well, like, yes, I have. Yeah, I have.
And the reality is that all animals that see in black and white only eat one thing. Because we eat a multitude of things, we see in colour.
Oh.
So therefore, we see in colour because fruits and vegetables are colourful. Take a look at your hand as you sit there in the studio today. Look how perfectly designed it is to pick and forage for fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans and seeds. Mm-hmm. Think about where those fruits and vegetables grow. They all grow within arm's distance of when you're standing. And the ones that grow tall in a tree, when they're ready to be eaten, they'll fall to the ground. And guess what? Plants don't run away from us. Animals, they're harder to catch. So most of our diet through the history of time has been consuming fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans and seeds. So I took that logic from what I had learned from the thousands of generations before me and decided to apply it in 2000.
Wait till you hear what happened as a result of that, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this is the most amazing story. JoinTheReboot.com is the website. We'll be back. 4-minute break. Stay tuned with Joe Cross. This is Joyce Riley. Welcome back to the Power Hour. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for caring about your world. Joe Cross joins us today. He's appeared on The Doctors, on The Rosie Show. He is really getting a lot of attention because he did the next right and honorable thing to himself by taking care of himself. The old saying, if it's to be, it's up to me. He had all the money he wanted to go around the world and talk to all the doctors, and he found out it was up to Joe. Joe joins us today, and we are so glad to have him join us because he made a life-changing decision that you can also make. Joe, at that point when you made the decision to go on raw fruits and vegetables to juice, you were in New York City, as I recall, and it was cold there. So the idea that, I can't do it because it's in the winter and it's too cold to do it, you decided, you just jumped in and did it, didn't you?
Yeah, well, actually what happened, Joyce, is that the fruits and vegetable part that I was explaining earlier before the break about eating that until I got well was all about the sick part of the fat, sick and nearly dead, right? That was the sick part. The fat part was I'm carrying around 100 pounds more than I should. Why do we do this? Like, why do we have this ability as a human race to carry all this energy around? But that's all it really is. It's stored up energy waiting to be used. And my logic was that we did this through survival of the history of time, is that we had this for when there were lean times, so when there were times when there was famines, because the history of the earth is littered with famine. But in today's world, we don't have any famines. We have a feast on every corner. Now, there's a nutritional famine going on, but there really is a feast everywhere you go. Mm-hmm. You know, you can't go and get gas for your car without being offered, thousands and thousands and thousands of calories sitting there in all, coloured paper wrapped underneath where you pay your bill. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. So what I wanted to do was create my own famine, and the best way of doing that was not by just drinking water, but by actually drinking the fruit and vegetable in a juice base. So that was the objective. So that's how I came to the juice part. Then the idea was, well, if I'm I'm Captain Stupid here, I thought I was a smart guy, and this is what I've been doing, and I look around the world, and I'm not the only one who's fat, sick, and nearly dead. And I thought to myself, what if I put a camera on myself? What if I, instead of making a donation to cancer research or the Heart Foundation, or making a donation, which is not a bad thing, but, I was in a position where I had the resources. I basically said, I'm a risk-reward guy. When you're a trader, Joyce, when I started my career with nothing as a trader on the floor, you actually learn about risk-reward. And for me, the risk-reward here was I could put a camera on myself, and if this works, if this actually works with me, just maybe this could inspire one or two other people to actually try this, because this seems so logical and so right. So that's how that came about. And the idea of coming to the USA versus staying in Australia was, well, number one, you drive across Australia. It's pretty lonely. I mean, it's 4 days with just desert. You're going to talk to a couple of kangaroos and a koala bear, maybe. So I thought by coming to the United States, I'm going to actually meet much more people. And furthermore, Americans are much more used to seeing content made in their own country than elsewhere, whereas Aussies, we're very used to seeing your content. We get that on TV all the time.
I see.
So that was the logic. And essentially, I had no idea where this journey was going to take me. I had absolutely no idea. I'd never made a movie before in my life. I'd never been in front of a camera. I'd never done anything, but that was part of the whole challenge, that what I had been doing wasn't working. So let's try something new.
It certainly was something new and different for you. And as you watch, and I think we're going to play the trailer when we come back from the break, as you watch him go from what he was to what he is today, it's a monumental difference. You don't even recognize Joe Cross as a result of that. What did your friends, I'm curious, what did your friends, your peers, your traders, other traders say when you made this decision, or did you tell them?
Well, people, I've got a saying that the world wasn't changed by reasonable people. And if you think about that, all the things that you need to do to make differences, you're always going to get from the group, from the group. They're going to say, oh, you can't do that, that can't be good for you, et cetera, et cetera. So I did get a lot of that. But because the ones who really knew me knew how I had tried for so long to try and find the cure, I was back on the old days of this cure, they were kind of like very supportive of, well, Joe, if you think this is going to work, go for it. So there was a bit of both sort of sides, but generally speaking, people who knew and cared for me most were very supportive. When I got through the other side and came out 100 pounds lighter, and just for the listeners, in the 60 days, I only did 60 days of juicing. I only put that down. When I say only, that's 2 months for just drinking the juice. And then I had to eat fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, and seeds. I did that for another 90 days.
60 days on juices and 90 days, ladies and gentlemen, on the raw fruits, vegetables, and seeds. We'll be back after this break. It is, we'll tell you all about how to get it after this 3-minute break. Stay tuned to the Power Hour. This is Joyce Riley with Joe Cross. Welcome back to Power Hour. Thank you for joining us. It is 33 minutes after the hour. We're so glad to have you, and we're so glad that you have invited us into your homes. I want to remind you that the Power Mall has items for sale. We think the very best that we can possibly find for you, just like the Gerson books that we were referring to earlier, used by one family to help their autistic child. There's all kinds of books that we have available that will help you to get better, feel better, and to understand that there can be a change, and that's what we're talking about today with Joe Cross. But I just want to remind you that we do have these specials until Friday at 4 p.m. Remember the Clouded Titles book on the mortgage fraud? That is on advance order only, and it's the one that's going to be going to the attorneys also on dealing with these cases. Dr. John Heinerman's health books, amazing, $15.95 a piece. The Spice Special. All of our organic spices are on special at the Power Mall. Take advantage of that. Lots of people getting those because you can almost buy a pound of organic spices for the price that you can get that little glass jar in the grocery store. So please take advantage. Also, Carolyn's Natural Soaps. Carolyn makes her own soaps, and they're all with the milk, the raw milk that her husband goes out and gets early in the morning, and then she makes the soap with her daughters, and it takes 2 weeks to make a bar of soap, and they are beautiful, and they are packaged so nicely. So please take advantage of buying local, buying from the good guys. That's what we do at the Power Mall. The number is 877-817-9829, 877-817-9829, or go to thepowermall.com. We're talking to Joe Cross today, and he is a businessman, or was a businessman. He had all the money in the world to do anything and investigate any kind of healing. He came up with the idea of what he needed to do for himself. He was fat, sick, and nearly dead. The website is jointhereboot.com, jointhereboot.com. joyceriley.com. You can get the video at iTunes, Amazon, Netflix. You can also see a trailer at YouTube. And I want you to hear the trailer from this. And I hope you don't mind if I play this, Joe, but it's just so good. And I want our listeners to get a feel and a flavor because they're going to want to get this DVD. So I'm going to go ahead with Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead.
Normally I'd eat 2 of those. Not 2 slices, 2 whole pieces. I better get out of here. I'm certainly no picture of health. I look like I've swallowed a sheep.
All right, Joe, come on over and step on the scale over here.
Fact. Here it is here. Look, I mean, it's sitting here. Sick. I've got a thing called chronic urticaria. I've been taking pills night and day. Looking at these bottles here, it doesn't look good, does it? And nearly dead. I might have already had a heart attack and died. G'day. My name's Joe Cross. I'm the sort of bloke who likes to tackle my demons head on.
Oh, you're from Australia?
I am from Australia.
You got the Russell Crowe they have.
The accent?
Yeah, the accent of Russell Crowe.
Yeah, I'm not as good an actor as him.
I hear you.
I came to America to save myself. I'm on a juice fast. Don't what? All I'm going to do is drink juice, green juice, 60 days.
That's crazy.
What's the issue?
It's called urticarius vasculitis.
Yeah, urticaria, that's what I've got. Well, that's extraordinary, because you're about one of the only first people in the world I've ever met. It's got the same thing that I've got.
You know, that is the name, that is the a gentleman who is a trucker that he met on his trip throughout the United States. And I want him to talk about his trucker friend in just a few minutes. But this is so amazing that you made the decision yourself to go 60 days on juice. Now, had you ever known anyone that had done this before, or did you worry that you were going to die during this time, Joe?
No, I look, I already knew that I was, that's the nearly dead part of my title. I knew that I was already in that heart attack zone and period, and, Joyce, when you're driving home today, have a look at every second car that goes past you. Statistically speaking, that person in America is either going to die of heart disease or cancer. And this epidemic of disease that we have in today's society is just, it's insanity given how much of it we're causing to ourselves. So I wasn't worried at all about going the other way, because I had gone so much to the extreme of not having this real food and real produce and real energy from the sun into my body that I felt going the other way was certainly not going to make me die. No way. I felt that what I was finally going to do is I had all the energy stored up on my body. I had to trust the fact that that energy stored, those 100 pounds are going to be used. And look, over the 5 months, I lost the 100 pounds. It went in 5 months from 60 days of juicing and 3 months of eating fruits, vegetables, nuts, beans, and seeds. But better than that, Joyce, my illness is in complete remission. I've never taken a pill since. I don't even take an Advil. I haven't been sick in 4 years since I finished that journey. So what's actually happened on the back of this, and you just alluded to Phil Staples, the truck driver I met. When I drove across the United States, I mean, that's one of the great things about your country, which is super impressive, is just how friendly Americans are. They're just great people. I just cannot tell you how great they are. And particularly when you get out of, the eastern and western, and you get into what I call the flyover states, places where lots of tourists never ever go to. But when you get out into the middle of America, I tracked across and went to 27 states, and I spoke to, 300 or 400 people on camera and thousands off camera. But the ones on camera that I met, that they told me their story about what they were eating, and more importantly, just what they weren't eating, was what was the real discovery here. But the big thing that I learnt the most by talking to all these Americans was just how many of them don't blame anybody else for their predicament except themselves. They are willing to take responsibility. What they just don't know is they just don't know the best way out. They're very confused on all of these diets, all of these plans. They're bombarded every day with this is good for you, this isn't good for you, this is bad, this is bad. You know what I mean? It's just all this mixed information. Mm-hmm. And what I wanted to try and do was break it down to a very simple thing. Take some time out from your life to reboot your life. And by doing that, what I mean is just pick a moment of time, 5 days, 10 days, 15 days of your life. It has to be more than 5 because, you need your body to adjust. You need some time. And just consume fruits and vegetables only for that period of time, just for that period. Now, if you want to really, amp it up, go to the juicing only, but if it scares you and you think that's a little bit too radical, just go to the eating of fruits and vegetables. You can steam them, you don't have to have them raw, but I don't want you to put oils, I don't want you to deep fry them, I don't want you to do things in butter, I want you to just keep it natural for 5, 10 or 15 days. We've got all these plans on our website, but by doing that, what happens is you experience what I call human 2.0. You get to know and feel what it's like to be human because we're taking out all of these sugars, fats, salts, any of these preservatives, all these artificial colorings and flavorings. They're all not in your diet for that period of time. So we're getting you chemical-free. And what we're doing is we're giving you this ability for the body to now take on the nourishment and energy that it needs so that your 2 trillion cells, that's effectively what you feed when you eat yourself, are getting what they really, really want. And your body will respond, and it will respond very quickly, which is why, after 15 days of this, most people in my community cannot believe how much energy they've got, how their skin looks, their hair, their nails, everything is just on fire after 15 days.
Do you actually think that if the average person, they wanted to challenge you on this, would do this, what you're saying, for 15 days, at the end of that 15 days, they would find that they feel so incredibly good that they probably are reaching a level they didn't even know that they could go to?
100%. I can tell you this. I've had hundreds of thousands of people. Well, first of all, over 1 million Americans have watched my movie. And about 200,000 have joined my community. And of that, at least half, so that's over 100,000 people, have tried this. And I've got testimonials like you wouldn't believe. I get emails every day. I got one just came in, believe it or not, while I've been on the call. And if you don't mind, I'll give you an example. This is a guy by the name of Dave. He said, "Hi, Joe. When my daughter approached me this past September and said I needed to watch the documentary Fat, Sick and Nearly Dead, I thought to myself, oh no, here we go again with some fad thing." Well, I've got to tell you that I was very impressed with the quality of your piece as well as the truly true stories. She bought me a juicer and I was on my way. At the time, I was 235 pounds, which is about 50 pounds overweight for me. My blood pressure had risen to the highest ever at 180/95, and my cholesterol is staggering 312. That's 312 total. Simply put, in 3 short months, I'm down to 195 pounds, blood pressure 120/65, and cholesterol. Doctor just took me off my meds. He couldn't believe it and sent me back for a second blood test just to make sure it was actually lower than normal. First time in 15 years. I can't thank you enough for putting together this truly life-saving program. I'm a true believer. Thanks, Merry Christmas, and a truly Happy New Year, Dave. So
that is wonderful.
I get now, my mum and dad, for the first time, did what I call the 555 reboot. Now, that's on our website, and that's the reboot standard. And that is 5 days of eating fruits and vegetables, 5 days of juicing fruits and vegetables, and then 5 days of eating fruits and vegetables. That's a 15-day program where the middle 5 is juicing only, okay? Mm-hmm. And you can juice and eat for the book-ended 5 days. Now, my mum lost 11 pounds in the 15 days, and my dad lost 16 pounds, and they have been juicing ever since every day. Because what this does is it reboots your system where you now get to know. I call it like we're a travel agent. We take you from the valley to the top of the mountain, and you're going to love the view.
That's right. That's right. I find this the most inspiring video on eating, on changing your life, on finding out that things can be better. And that's where people get stuck in this rut and think, I'm never going to be any better, any healthier than I am right now. And it can happen. And all it takes is 15 days. Now, jointhereboot.com is where you can go to the website. Now, direct the listeners as to what they should do at that website, or what they can do, or what they can find at the website.
Right, so, and I'll just apologise to them. Look, when I say apologise, my new website for Join the Reboot starts, I've got a brand new one starting January 9, because this one we've got right now, it's starting to wear because of the amount of people on it. But when you go there, the thing to do, you've got to sign up and you become a member. And then there's a thing called Take Our Assessment. It's down the right-hand side. And when you take the assessment, we'll tell you if you give us that data, what is the best reboot program for you. I've also got a nutritionist from the Harvard Medical School, Stacey Kennedy. She's the actual nutritionist in the film. I'm paying her to give free advice to all members. So you can go to the Ask Nutritionist group and you can send her a question and you'll get that answer for free. The whole website's free, by the way. I'm trying to keep this accessible to as many people as possible.
That was the part that shocked me the most, was after I saw the film, I went to the website and I thought, he's not trying to make money off this.
No, well, my view is that if I can create a community where all these people are getting free information. Now, if you want to buy a juice extractor machine to do this, you can buy it on my website, and I make some money out of that. But otherwise, just go down to Walmart and buy one. I don't care. I mean, this is not necessarily a money-making thing for me. This is about giving back. This is about trying to make a big difference in the world and trying to help people get their life back together and reboot their own life. Because, you know, I'm hoping to be able to create a juice brand. I'm working with technology in the new world. So maybe one day, if the brand is strong enough, then everyone understands and knows reboot juice, that I could get a juice into Walmart or to Walgreens or to Safeway, etc. So, you know, I believe in not just being completely free, as in, like, you know, all you're doing is giving money away, because otherwise I'll run out. So I've got to create something that I can get the sustainability on it. But in the first instant, to give people a program, to give people the inspiration, to give them the support, the group, I want to do all that for free, because this means that you don't need to buy my machine. You can go down to your local fruit and vegetable farm, support your local farmer, buy his produce, come back, log on, and do this, and not pay us a cent. And I'm completely okay with that. That is fine. It doesn't bother me at all. So once you get on and you do that, you'll see that we've got a community there. We've got the programs. And the new website's going to have so much more. I'm so excited about it. We're going to have our Hall of Fame. We're going to have all these ways that you'll be able to look up, you know, like, say, for example, you've got a chronic illness. You'll be able to tag an illness and see all the people that have done a reboot.
Oh,
excellent. That helped them.
Oh, that'll be great.
There's all these things that are exciting, but I think that the reason why the movie works so well, Joyce, is because we're not in the business of telling people what to do. We're in the business of showing. I think people are sick and tired of being told what to do. It doesn't work. You know, if just by being told what to do worked, we wouldn't have any of these problems in the world, would we?
Oh, you're so right about that. And you'll find out, listeners, that there's no reason to have diabetes. There's no reason to have all of these allergies. There's no reason to have these autoimmune diseases when you're eating and filling your body with the right things. So it's the whole movie is so incredibly inspiring. All you have to do is look at the reviews and see. And again, you can get it at Amazon. You can get it at iTunes. You can go to, Netflix. There's the trailer at YouTube, and that'll be in the email blast. By the way, sign up for the email blast, and all this will be in the email blast today. And you can see that
you can buy the DVD on our reboot. At jointhereboot.com, we have a shop, and you can buy the DVD, my book, and the nutritional guide there as well.
Excellent. That I have not gotten, so I'm going to get those. That is going to be that will be a real help to people to have just the story of how someone did this. I mean, we get to watch you every day walking through this program, getting better and better every day. Did you ever have, during the time of this initial 60 days, did you ever think about quitting?
Oh, look. You know, the answer to that is the first 3 to 5 days of a reboot are the toughest. Anybody out there who's done this will tell you that the first part is toughest, and certainly in that first part, particularly, I'd never made a movie. I was finding it tough. I didn't know I was spending all this money. I was in America. I was on my own. Yes, I won't say I felt like quitting. I was questioning why I was doing this and was this the right thing. But the interesting thing about the human body is that because we've been through many famines before, hunger will go away. And I was never hungry after day 4. What I was is I had cravings, like I would see big signs as I was driving across the freeways, a big burger and a Coke and fries, and I'd see a fried chicken. And, you know, I got pretty excited about that. I couldn't watch TV anymore, because every time I watched TV, because I love my sport, there'd be like a pizza being lifted out of a pan with cheese melting off it. You know, that was something that I had to turn away. It was very difficult to look at the food. And of course, I had a crew with me making the movie, and so they had to eat. So I would just spend a lot of time in car park while they were inside the restaurant eating because I didn't want to go and sit in and smell and see the food.
Oh, yeah.
So, look, it was tough, but, no pain, no gain, Joyce. At the end of the day, I talk about, I was a big fan of Tim Russett, from Meet the Press.
Yes.
And I loved him. I thought he was fabulous. I loved watching him. And, and I talk about this in the sense that, Tim went to work one day, said goodbye to his family, and never came home.
That's right.
And he would never have thought about that. And that was where I was heading. And there's so many others, and we don't need to be that way.
We're going to be back after this 3-minute break. Let's take a couple of phone calls. If you'd like to give us a call at 855-99-JOYCE. 855-99-JOYCE. I don't know if we have much time at all, but we'd love to hear from you if you've done the reboot or thinking about it. 54 minutes after the hour. Thank you for joining us today. It is jointhereboot.com. I want to encourage you all to do that. I'm going to do a reboot program also, and I want to encourage you to do it. And then we're going to have our guest, Joe Cross, back on again. We're going to find out how it went for everyone. And I do encourage you to look into this. If you want to change the way you feel, the way you look, the way you act, the way you think, it's all at rebootyourlife.com. Now, the DVD is available, and you get it free when you purchase a juicer from jointhereboot.com. You can get it at Amazon. You can get it. It's everywhere. But I encourage you to also to go to the Facebook page, Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. The Facebook page, he says, has all of the testimonies of the people there. You can find out how everyone is doing. And, Joe, we've got a caller, but real quickly, how many people have become involved in the Join the Reboot program?
Close to 200,000, Joyce. And,
wow.
This is, most people in America have seen a movie called Forrest Gump, when Forrest ran across America and people started following. I met a truck driver called Phil Staples, and I don't want to ruin it for the listeners about what happens, but Phil was 430 pounds. Phil saw me drinking juice by the side of the road in a truck stop. He had a juice, and it changed his life. And Phil was the first person who started following me, and now thousands and thousands of people are following Phil, and thousands are following those thousands, and it's a real pay-it-forward story, which is now creating this groundswell. And my job in 2012 is to get 20 million Americans to watch this movie, because I think if we can do that, we're going to be able to turn the table on this obesity, diabetes, Alzheimer's, cancer, and heart disease epidemic we have in America.
Absolutely. I don't think you could have had a better candidate to show tremendous, overwhelming change than Phil.
So what Phil does is nothing short of extraordinary.
Absolutely. I mean, his first few days of commitment, and I don't want to ruin it for anyone either, but I mean, you almost end up crying in this movie because it is so good. It is so wonderful.
Most people do cry, Joyce. So don't worry about crying. Most people do.
It gives you so much hope. I mean, it's just amazing. Let me go to Gary in Illinois. Gary in Illinois, you're on the air with Joe Cross. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'd like to thank Joe for putting out a really good video there, and that my wife and I watched it. It was informational, intense. We've been in the alternative medical for about 30 years, but there was a different twist to his production in that we wound up going on a juice-type diet, and both dropped 20 pounds within a short amount of time, and now we brought our vegetable intake to about 85%.
Wow, that's incredible, Gary.
Do, and we're enjoying better health all around.
I agree with you that when people see this, you're going to be so inspired, you're going to want to say, well, look, I just want to see if it can happen to me. I just want to know, is it as good as Joe Cross says it is? Because it really is as powerful as you're saying. Now, let me ask
back
you.
Again now.
Okay, thank you so much, Joe. We lost Joe for just a second. Gary did this. Now, Gary just said that he and his wife went on the program after seeing your DVD. They lost 20 pounds, and they're now on 85% vegetables. So this is
good on you, Gary. Congratulations, mate.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Very good.
And it's changed your life.
We've been recommending it to everybody also. It's really worthwhile of you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary, for
good on
calling.
you, and I'm glad you're doing that, and thanks for spreading the word. I think it's people like Gary that are going to make a difference out here in the United States. It's individuals that are standing up, that are doing this, and then leading by example to their friends and family.
That's right. Now, you mentioned something during the break. If you don't stay with it, you can't go back. You can't do a reboot and then expect your life to change. If you go back
It's like you can't do 20 years of damage to yourself and then expect to do 15 days and everything be fine. That's not how the laws of biological laws of cause and effect work. But what actually happens, and Gary's a great example of that, is that once you do the program, because you feel so great, then what you end up doing is sticking with it because you feel good and you know that you go back to this other food.
Okay, we got a 1 minute, 10-second break. We're going to come back, and we got Bob in Missouri after this 1 minute, 10-second break. Stay tuned to the Power Hour. This is Joyce Riley with Joe Cross. You got to see this DVD. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Power Hour, ladies and gentlemen. Straight up, top of the hour. Our guest today is Joe Cross. He has changed his life and probably hundreds of thousands of other people. JoinTheReboot.com is the website. There's a reboot community there. There's an expert blog. You can get information. It is an amazing website. He says it's only going to get better in January. Well, we'll see, and we will enjoy that also. Joe Cross did the unthinkable, the amazing, lost 100 pounds, got off all of his meds. He feels so good today. Now, I want to ask, well, let me go to Bob in Missouri first. Bob, I'm going to make sure I get you in. Bob, you're on the air. Go ahead, please, with Joe Cross.
Yeah, just two things. One is, for people who don't have computers, is there a number they can call to get your video?
To buy the video. Yeah, we actually don't have a setup for that, Bob, but what they can do is at Whole Foods and a lot of big box stores like Best Buy and others, they're stocking the DVD in their stores. So,
and then there are DVD is
Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. Joe, let me ask you, can we get it at the Power Mall so that we can carry it here? Is that
sure,
a possibility?
I'm very happy to set that up for you. No problem
Okay.
at all. I can ship down a couple hundred DVDs for you to sell, no problem at all.
Okay, let's go ahead and tell people that if you're not online, you can order it from the Power Mall, and we'll get it just really quickly for you. So Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead, we'll get it at the Power Mall then. And thank you very much, Bob, for the phone call. The question I have for you is, what was your mainstay juice that you drank during that time? Do you mind sharing that with us?
Sure, absolutely. I'm very big on people drinking all the different colors of the fruit and vegetable rainbow. So you've got oranges, reds, purples, greens, yellows. I'm very big on all of that. But my main one I drank was kale, cucumber, celery, ginger, lemon, and green apple. And I call it the mean green. And that is a juice that's just so full of micronutrients, phytochemicals, biophotons. And believe it or not, in a 20-ounce juice, 20-ounce glass of that juice, there's still 9 grams of protein.
And that's amazing. And how many glasses, 20-ounce glasses of juice?
I drank 6 to 8 a day, depending on how much. I think about it as like when you fill your car up with gas. You fill your car up as it needs gas. This is the same thing. This is liquid. I call this liquid sunshine, freebasing Mother Nature, just pouring the nutrients from the sun. Because at the end of the day, Joyce, if you think about you think about those ingredients I put in, cucumber, celery, all they are captured sunlight. That's all they are. Mm-hmm. And when you release them into the human body, you're releasing sunlight into your 2 trillion cells. And they need the sunlight. That's what they need. And when you cook vegetables, when you process them, you burn the sunlight out before it hits your body. And that's the big problem with our food system. So by taking natural raw produce, and a lot of people don't like eating them because they don't taste good, but I haven't met anyone who doesn't like the taste of the juices that we have in the recipes we have on jointherebate.com.
Oh, absolutely. Now, I have a juicer, and I was juicing this weekend, and I was doing pretty much the same thing you were, but with just Swiss chard added to it. But, I mean, it is so good. You sit there and you savor it. You eat. Like the Gerson Institute says, you eat your juice.
That's right.
I had the honor of going out to the Gerson Institute, and where you have 13 glasses of juice per day there. And it's quite an operation to make that kind of juice. Now, you have and you juiced going all the way across the country. How did you operate a juicer, an electric juicer going across the country?
Yeah, well, I took a generator with me, and I also would pull up to a gas station. I'd use a power plug. Some people were very kind to give me the front yard of their house. They would allow me to use their hose to wash out the machine. I mean, you make do. That's part of the journey. And look, just something for the listeners that I think is a very important point is that when you do a reboot and you are in the juicing only stage, you don't have to make the juice as you go. You can make enough juice for 3 days, and as long as it's kept in a glass container and it's very tightly sealed, and a mason jar is probably the best thing that I use at home that you can get, readily anywhere.
Well, let me just, we're out of time, unfortunately. I got to let you go. I want you back so badly, and we're going to find out how other people did on joining the reboot. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest has been Joe Cross. Joe, thank you so much for the inspiration you've been for thousands and thousands
you're
of people.
Thanks for having me on the day.
You have a blessed day. Thank you so much. We'll be back.